Okay, a nice quick little elliptical application with an arch. You see this thing has a span of 18 feet, right? That's this distance on the ground, and has a height of 12 feet right here. So, okay, my picture isn't too accurate, but we'll leave that alone. And I want to write the standard equation for this. Now I've got the standard equation written over here. I'm going to have some perfect squares with a 1 on the right. That's what an ellipse is. And we want to figure out what h, k, a, and b are. And then we've got the first part done. Now, the really great part about an application like this is you can pick the center of the ellipse, in other words, this part right here, the ground under the middle of it, to be at 0, 0. Okay, that makes a lot of stuff easier. That means your h and your k value are going to be nothing. So on top, we're going to get x squared plus y squared. Now we have to figure out the denominators. Okay, that's not too hard. For one thing, they give you the semi-major axis. Oh, is it semi-major? Yeah, in this case, they give you the semi-major axis. Okay, this is going to be 12 right there. So what's 12 squared? Well, that's 144. And they give you enough that you can figure out the semi-minor axis. Let me get my, oh no, what is happening? Okay, hold on. Eraser, that's all I wanted. Okay. They give you enough that you can find the semi-minor axis, this guy right here. If you remember that 18 is the full distance from covertex to covertex. That means that A is equal to half of that, 9, the distance from the center to a covertex. So 9 squared is 81. Right, so this is my equation. Got that part done. Now moving on to the next part, they say find the distance rounded to 2 decimal places. And I want to be really clear about what they're asking for. From the center of the arch to a point on the ground at which the height is 8 feet. Okay, so the height of this thing is going to be 8 feet, and it has to go from the center of the arch. So I've drawn my interpretation of that right here. Here's the 8 feet high, and I want to know how far out from the middle of the arch do you have to go to a height of 8 feet. Maybe something is passing onto the arch that's 8 feet high, and we want to know how wide this thing can be before it's going to clip the edges of the arch. Okay, I don't know. So all you do, this is pretty easy. We're just going to take that equation and write it here. X squared over 81 plus what's y? Well, y is 8 feet, so that's going to be 64. That's y squared over 144 equals 1. And now we solve for x. That's it. So this is going to turn into x squared over 81 equals 1 minus 64 over 144. Multiply both sides by 81. You get x squared equals 81 times 1 minus 64 over 144. And so on. Take the square root of this thing, and you're going to get x equals 6.71. Now, on a written test, right here, I give you feet. I write that in there. But on a written test, you want to make sure you say feet. If you're in a college algebra class right now and you miss feet, they're going to ding you for a point on that. So remember, this is feet, not inches, not miles. You can't just be reasonable. You got to pay attention to the details.